Good morning, students. As in previous lecture, we read about that how the need to improve agriculture was felt by East India Company and the revenue systems were started. And the first system which we read about that was the permanent settlement, which was introduced in 1793 by Lord Cornwallis. And in this system, we read that Rajas and Talukdars were recognized as zamindars. They were asked to collect rent from the peasant and pay revenue to the company. In it, revenue was fixed permanently. It could not be increased. So this was the permanent settlement, and into this system, the company felt a lot of problems also, due to which the new system was devised, and that system was the Mahalwadi system. The Mahalwadi system was introduced in 1822 by Englishman Holt Mackenzie. So, in 1822, an Englishman called Holt Mackenzie felt that village was an important social institution for North Indian society and needed to be preserved. Therefore, he developed a new method of revenue collection known as Mahalwadi system. In this system, few steps were taken. Officers went to different villages for inspection of land. Fields were measured, customs and rights of the people were recorded. Estimated revenue of each plot within the village was added up to calculate the revenue that each village which is known as mahal over here, had to pay. The revenue was not permanently fixed. It was to be revised periodically. Instead of zamindars, the village headman was made responsible of collecting and paying the revenue to the company. As you have read in previous revenue system, which was known as the permanent system, in that system we have read that the zamindar was told to collect the rent, to collect the revenue. But here the zamindars were not told to collect the revenue. The village headman was made responsible of collecting and paying the revenue to the company. While Mahalwadi system of revenue collection was introduced in northern part of the country, another method came into use in the southern part of the country, which was known as the Munro system. Now, the third system, that is the Munro system, which was also known as Rayotwadi system. So, this Munro system, which was also known as Rayotwadi system, was introduced in southern part of India. Also, Britishers felt that permanent settlement method was not beneficial enough. And so, Thomas Munro, who was the governor of Madras, in 1819 developed a new method of revenue collection, which was known as Rayotwadi system. This system was actually based on a method which was applied by Captain Alexander Reid on a small scale in some of the areas, which were won over by the company after what? After defeating Tipu Sultan. Rayots were known as peasants. The peasants were also known as rayots. Rayots here refer to the cultivators. As there was absence of zamindars in South India, both Reid and Munro decided to directly deal with the rayots or the cultivators who had tilled the land for generations. Their fields had to be carefully and separately surveyed before the revenue assessment was made. So, in short, Rayotwadi system settlement, it was initiated by Captain Alexander Reid and developed by Thomas Munro. The Rayotwadi settlement was introduced in the British territories of South India. The British officials directly collected the revenue from the peasants under this system. In order to desire to increase the income from land revenue, officials fixed high revenue demands, but peasants were unable to pay and villages became deserted in many regions. Okay, now we know the difference between all the three systems of revenue collection. We know that Rayotwadi system was also introduced by the Britishers, but soon a new problem arose. What was that? Let's find out. All was not well. Under the Rayotwari system, peasants were charged with a very high rate of tax. They started deserting the countryside as it became impossible for them to pay tax. Many of the company officers were of the view that the new system of collection will help peasants in becoming rich. But this never happened. Britishers were not solely dependent on the revenue generated from Indian territories in the form of taxes. They levied, but they also decided to use the crops of the country in order to earn profit in the trading business. This we will study further. Crops for Europe. By the late 18th century, Britishers tried to expand the cultivation of opium and indigo in various parts of India. They also forced the cultivators to grow various other crops such as jute in Bengal, tea in Assam, sugarcane in UP, wheat in Punjab, cotton in Maharashtra, and Punjab, rice in Madras. So basically, the more emphasis was laid on cultivation of indigo. But why? Why was it so important to cultivate indigo? First of all, you should know what indigo is and why is it used. So basically, indigo is a plant from which a blue powder is derived, and this is used to dye cloths in blue, or as we say, indigo color. Indigo was so important. Why? Why was it so important? There were some reasons due to which indigo was so important. What were the reasons? It can only be grown in tropical climate. So, climate of India was suitable for its growth. India was the main exporter of indigo. It was of high demand in Europe because it gave a rich blue color to be used for dyeing the cloths. In Europe, a plant named woad was cultivated which was used for dyeing clothes, but the color that it gave us not so rich, resulting into the high demand of indigo in Europe. One interesting fact about wood and indigo is that the wood cultivators were so worried about the tough competition they were facing because of indigo that they pressurized their respective governments to ban the import of indigo. Not only English, but the French in Caribbean island, the Portuguese in Brazil, the Spanish in Venezuela also started cultivating indigo plants. While the demand for indigo was increasing, its supply fell to half between 1783 and 1789 due to various reasons. As there was less supply, the British dyers became keener to procure indigo, and at this point they turned to India to meet their needs. Now Britain turns to India. This we will continue in next lecture. But before going towards the next lecture, I would like to describe both the pictures to you. You can see over here figure 5 and figure 6. In figure 5, a kalamkari print is shown, and in figure 6, a Morris cotton print is shown. Now this kalamkari print, this is created by weavers of Andhra Pradesh in India. On the other hand, if you will see the Morris cotton print, this was produced by William Morris. He was a famous poet and artist of 19th century in Britain. Now, there is something common in both the prints. What is that common thing? Common thing is that in both the prints, blue color, which is known as indigo, which is rich blue color, is used in both the prints. So next topic we will continue in the next lecture.